Welcome to the May 17th, 2022 City of Oshkosh Plan Commission meeting. We're glad you can all join us. Before we start, I have a few housekeeping items to go over before we begin. Please turn off or silence all of your personal communication devices. We would appreciate that. When there is an agenda item that includes a public hearing, please understand that the applicant will be allowed to speak first. After the applicant finishes, the public will be asked to speak. When called upon to speak, please approach the podium and state your name and address for the public record. You will have one opportunity per agenda item to speak unless a Plan Commission member requires clarification or wishes to ask you a question. After the public finishes speaking, the applicant will be asked if they have a final statement for the Plan Commission, and then the Commission will take action on that item. Thank you all for your understanding. Now we're going to go on to the agenda. Roll call first, please.
Mr. Cole-Bali.
Aye.
Ms. Davy.
Here.
Councilmember Ford.
Here.
Mr. Kiefer. Mr. Marshall.
Here.
Ms. Prop. Ms. Shireman.
Here.
Mr. Bowen. Vice Chair Mitchell. Chairperson Perry.
Here.
6 present.
I see we do have a quorum. Okay, we're going to approve the May 3rd, 2022 meeting minutes.
Move to accept the minutes as written.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on this motion? Seeing none, all in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, minutes pass. Item number 1, conditional use permit for outdoor commercial entertainment at 1309 Oregon Street, the HQ Bar and Grill. Lavac HQ LLC owner, Barry Lavac, applicant, and I'm sorry if I butchered your name. Plan Commission, are there any site visits of this particular place? I see 2 hands up. I will accept the staff report as part of the record. Please present to us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a request to add outdoor commercial entertainment to an existing mixed-use property on Oregon Street. The subject site is located on the west side, approximately 100 feet or so south of West South Park Avenue. The subject parcel is just over a quarter acre in size and is developed with an existing bar on the first floor and 1 dwelling unit on the upper story or second floor. The site is surrounded by mixed-use buildings along Oregon Street and transitions to mix of single and 2-family residential as you head west from the site. It's an air photo of the site. As I mentioned, the site is developed with a mixed-use building on the north side of the property. Approximately, I'd say 10 years ago, there was a house that was located here, which has since been raised, and this lot was combined with the bar property to create one single parcel. And the site is also developed with a outdoor volleyball court on the western side, and it has a outdoor deck area off the west side of the building. The applicant's proposing to install a 34 by 16 in-ground pool on the west side, or on the south side of the existing bar facility. And it's proposed to be surrounded with a approximately 290 square foot concrete patio which will wrap around it. The site, or the pool, is located behind trash enclosures. This was recently constructed earlier this year. Here's some outdoor photos looking at it. This was just recently constructed within the last month or so. This is used for trash enclosures, and the proposed pool would be on the other side of the slatted fencing to the west of this here. And it's just a oblique area, and the pool would be located approximately right here. The proposed pool, go back, meets the minimum setback requirements in the UMU district, which is 5 feet from the side lot line. They're proposing approximately 6 feet from the side lot line. The property appears, after construction, it appears to be allowed below the 50 or 85% maximum impervious surface allowed in the UMU district. This will be verified during site plan review, where final our final numbers will be reviewed and verified. As far as lighting, no changes are being proposed to any exterior lighting. Same with signage, no proposed changes to signage. As far as landscaping, the applicant is proposing to install a series of arborvitae along the south property line to serve as a buffer from the property to the south. Staff is recommending the applicant provide an additional 90 evergreen landscaping points somewhere between Oregon Street and the pool facility to serve as a additional screening from the public right-of-way. The Department of Public Works reviewed the plans and will require full site plan review to make sure that the site complies with the city's stormwater regulations. And lastly, as far as facades, no changes are being proposed for any of the existing building facades. So with that, staff is recommending approval of the outdoor commercial entertainment area with 3 conditions: that the additional 90 evergreen landscaping points be placed on the Oregon Street side of the property. The applicant will need to provide a final site plan showing the true calculation for total impervious. And number 3, the applicant will need to meet all state and county requirements for commercial pools. And that's it.
Okay, Plan Commission, are there any technical questions to the staff? Mr. Mitchell?
Was there any sort of language in any ordinance or health policy that you're aware of that somehow connects drinking and swimming? Not that it couldn't happen, but that there's some sort of safety measure in place?
So the last condition we added about the commercial pool requirements and the licensing and stuff that goes with that, we did discuss with the county health department. And we did discuss with the county health department, who asked us to add that requirement. There are some very specific commercial regulations for these outdoor swimming pools when it's related to that. So they will have to get a license from the county health department for the establishment and to meet those requirements.
Okay, any other technical questions for the staff? I'm seeing none, so we're going to open the public comment period and request a statement from the applicant if the applicant is here. Is the applicant here? If you approach the podium and state your name and address, that would be great.
Barry Levesque, 806 Oregon Street.
Anything you want to add about kind of what you're trying to do here?
I've just watched other business models. For example, Tanner's Bar in Kimberly, Wisconsin, and they're very successful with what they're doing. And I think that it'd bring a great opportunity to this city, especially with some entertainment. So.
All right, thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Prop has a question.
So you're planning bands and stuff in addition to the pool?
Absolutely not. That's not the plan.
Okay.
We do have
Is there
volleyball.
room around this pool to put chairs and tables?
Absolutely.
I agree with Justin that my first thought was, gee, yeah, it'd be popular. But I could see excessive drinking and a pool not being compatible always.
How deep is the pool?
It's under 4 feet. Yep, 3.7.
Can you help us understand, so the pool is there if there's no bands, because I kind of thought too, when I think of entertainment district, I think of something more than just a pool with chairs around it. So is it piped in music or?
There's piped in music. I also own OshkoshBars.com, which is a party rental
Right,
business, which is a bus business.
right.
So I plan on renting cabanas here. Also, starting, for example, a bachelorette party would start here, and then we'd pick them up with a party bus and then finish their night.
So from a music perspective, it's just, there's not noise, I mean, it's just.
I don't see any, actually, I mean, we plan on putting lawn chairs across us for tanning, et cetera. There's actually no stage if there was any kind of outside music, I could maybe picture just a guy on a stool with a acoustic guitar. I don't see, there's not room for drums or like anything like that.
They would still have to meet the city's noise ordinance.
Yeah, I was
They're not-
thinking about that.
That doesn't change the provisions of any of that.
Are there any other questions? Okay, thank you. At this point, I'm gonna ask for additional public comment. Is there anybody in the public that would like to speak on this item? Anybody in the public that would like to speak on this item? Okay, having seen none, I'm going to close the public comment period. I can ask for a closing statement from you, but I don't think you need to make one unless you want to.
I'm fine with it.
Okay. So commission, I need some action from you.
Make a motion to adopt the findings and recommendations as stated in the staff report.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Commission, is there any discussion on the motion? Any discussion on the motion? All right, let's call a roll call vote.
Mr. Coulibaly.
Aye.
Ms. Davy.
Aye.
Councilmember Ford.
Aye.
Mr. Marshall.
Aye.
Ms. Prop.
Aye.
Ms. Shireman.
Aye.
Vice Chair Mitchell.
Aye.
Chairperson Perry.
Aye.
Motion carried 8-0.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
So just for this will be on council next week for final approval, just to make sure you attend that meeting as well.
I'll be there.
All right, item number 2 on our agenda, specific implementation plan for commercial development at the northeast corner of West South Park Avenue and Ripon Lane. Todd Waller is the owner and applicant. Have there been any site inspections by the Plan Commission there? I see 2, include myself, please.
Did you see Justin?
Oh, 3, Justin. All right, I'm going to accept the staff report as part of the record. Staff, please present your summary.
Thank you. This is an SIP request for a commercial development. The site is located at the northwest corner of West South Park Avenue and Ripon Lane. It includes the former LaSure's site as well as a single-family home, which are both to be raised. The surrounding area is primarily commercial land uses as well as residential uses to the west along Ripon Lane. In April of 2021, a zone change was approved to add a planned development to the site and neighboring site to the north, and a GDP was approved for a commercial development on the site. Here's an aerial view of the site. So it's the former LaSure's site as well as a former residence. Here's the site plan. The applicant is proposing development of a drive-through restaurant and coffee shop, which will be a Dunkin' Donuts and Baskin Robbins. It is consistent with the approved GDP for a drive-through commercial use. There was a virtual neighborhood meeting in March of 2022, and neighbors voiced general support for the land use. The site will have an access from Ripon Lane, as well as a shared access from West South Park Avenue and West 20th Avenue, and a shared access drive from the neighboring parcel, which will be an O'Reilly Auto Parts store. The site will have 15 parking stalls and a small patio on the front south side of the building. The applicant is requesting reduced front yard setback to 1.56 feet for a bike parking pad, 10.34 feet for the drive aisle, and 22.34 feet for the patio. Also reduced rear yard setback to 5.25 feet from the rear property line, where code requires a 25-foot front and rear yard setback. So staff is supportive of those setback reductions as they are needed to allow for the parking and access and drive-through areas shown in the site plan. And given the unique shape of the lot, there's a very limited available area meeting those setback requirements. Also, there's an unusually large right-of-way, so there's sufficient distance from the street. And for the rear yard setback, it is abutting neighboring commercial land uses. The applicant has submitted a plan for a shared pylon sign with the O'Reilly Auto Parts store. So they have one here and then one on the O'Reilly Auto Parts site. So a BSM is needed for that as it is off-premise advertising to have the shared sign, which is prohibited. Staff is supportive of the requested BSM for the off-premise advertising as it has shared access between the two sites, and the O'Reilly Auto Parts site and the subject site will both be meeting the maximum allowable signage area for the SMU district. Here's the landscaping plan. It is meeting building foundation landscaping requirements as well as paved area landscaping requirements. However, they are showing a 5-foot wide planter island along the southern drive aisle ends. So the code requires a 7-foot wide planter island. Staff is supportive of that reduction as they are still able to fit a small deciduous tree in there to meet that code requirement. They are meeting street frontage landscaping requirements as well as yard landscaping requirements. Here's the lighting plan. It is meeting the 0.4-foot candle requirement for all drive and parking areas. It is exceeding the maximum 0.5-foot candles along the right-of-way and along the north and east property lines. It is only slightly exceeding that maximum of 0.5-foot candles, so staff is supportive of the BSM to allow the increased lighting as the south side it's only in the public right-of-way, and then also it's along the neighboring shared development site. Here's the building elevation. This is the east elevation, which is the main entrance. And then the south street-facing side, west elevation, and the north rear elevation. So brick is being utilized on all facades along with the glazing on the front and side facades to meet the 50% Class 1 material requirement. And back to the landscaping plan. So they are requesting some base standard modifications, and they are exceeding the landscaping requirements, actually doubling the total landscaping point requirements to offset those BSMs. So staff is supportive of the BSMs with them offsetting them with the increased landscaping as well as continuous row of evergreen trees along the west property line to kind of soften the view from the neighboring residences. So with that, staff recommends approval of the specific implementation plan with the findings and conditions in your staff report.
All right, Plan Commission, any technical questions to staff? Ms. Shireman?
Could you say again, the setback, I felt like it was a modification because of bike parking. So can you share that again? And is it like the street, the bike parking, and then the building? And
Yeah, the bike parking pad is right here, so it's a concrete area which would technically need to meet the 25-foot setback requirement. But with it being right along the pedestrian access, staff is supportive of that location because it's kind of makes sense to have the bike parking there to access the site and patio.
Okay.
Mr. Mitchell?
Can you talk to the little terrace section that sits in front of that? Is that city-owned? Is that a utility-owned area? It just seems, yeah, there's this little weird portion that sits.
It's part of the public right-of-way. Because of the nature of that angle of the street, there's an overly large right-of-way to accommodate it, and there are some utilities in it.
Got it. So does the city maintain it then? Or is there an agreement with the owner?
We'll wait for our friends from Public Works back here.
If he's coming up, the question is, to the, I guess it would be the west of that. What sits to the left, to the west of the plot again?
This area?
Yeah.
The west are existing residential properties along Ripon Lane.
Is there I know we've talked about this whole area, and there was talk that a plan may be developed at some point. Is that anything to report on?
So, again, it's no longer zone single-family. The comp plan calls for that change out of single-family, but it really is going to take some development of commercial nature to those people. I mean, they're homes that are in decent shape and have some proud owners of them that aren't necessarily interested in leaving at this point. So it's going to take a bit of natural progression before they'd be interested in selling. But at this time, those neighbors seem very happy in their houses.
Sure. Thank you.
I missed the question about the right away there.
Just curious about maintenance of it.
Maintenance would be the property owner's responsibility. So the adjacent property owners are required to maintain the terraces. Whether they're very large or very small, it's their responsibility.
Got it.
Mr. Marshall?
Can you just explain, like if I'm coming from Highway 41 going, what is that, northeast on South Park, how would I access it? Like where exactly? I guess the access points coming also if I was going west on 20th. I'm just, with this weird angle, I'm just having a hard time picturing how you enter the property from those two places.
Oh, Ripon Lane.
Yeah, so heading south and west South Park Ave, they come under Ripon Lane, and then the access is here, and then they also have the shared access, which is right here.
Can you actually go back to that? That.
It's kind of,
So that's, it's slightly offset from where it is today.
So,
Here, basically that drive goes through.
okay.
And then the new there's an additional one.
So are you kind of expanding Ripon Lane or you don't even and then I guess there's the curb there, but it doesn't go down that far, I guess. Like you don't have, there's like the bump in the middle, whatever you call that.
Oh,
On South Park.
you're talking.
This, yeah.
Yep. So that, if you can go back, if you imagine that lines up basically the driveway here.
Okay.
This kind of weird, I really should have a mic on me. I'll try to talk much louder. This access point would be removed as part of this, and a new straight down access point would connect with Ripon Lane.
Okay. All right.
Other questions from the, technical questions from the Plan Commission? Because I have one. The other building on the site, proposed medical office or something like that, is there planning to be a drive-through with that, like for pharmacy pickup?
My understanding at this time is they don't have a user for the third building yet.
Okay, because my concern would be 2 drive-throughs on the same property, let alone 1. But anyway, just wanted to know that question.
I think the only drive from the GDP was for this site.
Okay. Any other technical questions? All right, thank you. I'm going to open the public comment period and request a statement from the applicant. Is the applicant here tonight? All right, please approach the podium, state your name and address for our record.
My name is Jim Lundberg with Point of Beginning. I'm here representing the applicant. We worked on the design of the site for the applicant, so I'm open to any questions that the Plan Commission might have.
All right, since we did the first one, we'll ask some questions now. Ms. Schumer?
Is the applicant for this one the same owner as the existing one we have? Is it the same? Okay.
Mr. Mitchell?
Not so much a question as much as I really appreciate the work that you did, and probably the city had a significant input on this as well, to connect some of the lots and to potentially reduce all the turn-ins and turn-outs. It's just, I think, a key thing for that area, and it ties into my questioning on the properties to the west, if that'll be, eventually if that lane could potentially connect, depending upon what's there 10 years down the road. But in any case, I commend you for the effort to design it such that there's a connection.
And we appreciate the collaboration with city staff and working through the technicalities of the site. It's an interesting site, to say the least.
I was wondering if you were going to use non-conforming.
Are there any other questions right now, Plan Commission? Okay, at this time, I will request additional public comment. Is there anybody from the public that wishes to comment on this agenda item? Anyone from the public that wishes to comment? Okay, having seen none, I will close the public comment period. Once again, I need to ask if there's a closing statement from the applicant, but I'm sensing no. So commission action, I need some action from the commission here.
Go ahead.
No, you, go ahead.
Move to adopt the finding and recommendation as said in the staff report.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? Okay, because I know you guys are all disappointed, I will have to say that the drive-through concerns me, but it does appear that it is fully within the established parameters as set by the city, and because of that, it's of less concern than it would normally be for me, but I know you would all be disappointed if I didn't say anything, so. Any other questions or discussion? Seeing none, let's call for a vote. Roll call, please.
Mr. Colabali?
Aye.
Ms. Davy?
Aye.
Councilmember Ford?
Aye.
Mr. Marshall?
Aye.
Ms. Prop?
Aye.
Ms. Shireman?
Aye.
Vice Chair Mitchell?
Aye.
Chairperson Perry?
Aye.
Motion carried 8-0.
All right, thank you. On to item number 3, public hearing, zone change from single-family residential 9 district and SR 9 to institutional district with a planned development overlay for properties located on the west side of the 500 block of Monroe Street. The Boys and Girls Club of Oshkosh and Robert Koch is the owner. Martinson and Isoli is the applicant. Are there any site inspections that you would wish to report, Plan Commission? I see 3. All right, I'm going to accept the staff report as part of the record. Staff, please present your summary.
Thank you. So this request includes 11 parcels on the west side of Monroe Street between Parkway Avenue and Merritt Avenue. The sites are currently zoned SR9 and were previously used for single and two-family residences. The surrounding area consists primarily of residential uses, along with the Boys and Girls Club site to the west, and mixed commercial and residential uses to the south. And the 2040 Comprehensive Land Use Plan recommends light-density residential for the subject area. The applicant is requesting a zone change to institutional district with a planned development overlay from the existing SR9 district. This is intended to provide consistent zoning with the Boys and Girls Club site to the west to allow the lots to be combined into one lot, and the residential structures would then be raised, and then the Boys and Girls Club will be expanded in that area, and that will be addressed as GDP and SIP review on the following item. Staff is supportive of the proposed rezone as it is needed to assist expansion of the Boys and Girls Club site. The institutional zoning is not consistent with the 2040 Comprehensive Land Use Plan recommendation of light density residential. However, the comprehensive plan is not intended to be parcel specific, and the purpose of the rezone is to allow for expansion of the existing institutional land use, which is the Boys and Girls Club. So staff is recommending approval of the rezone.
Okay, thank you. Technical questions from the Plan Commission to the staff. Any technical questions? All right, I see none, so I'm going to open the public comment period, public hearing, and request a statement from the applicant. If the applicant could approach the podium and state your name and address, that would be wonderful.
Hi, I'm Jack Richardson with Martinson and Isley. I'm the civil engineer. We're helping the Boys and Girls Club to work through this whole process. Representatives from the Boys and Girls Club are also here in case you have questions for them specifically. But we don't really have anything to add beyond what the staff report indicated.
Thank you. All right, at this time, I'm going to request additional public comment. Are there individuals from the public that would like to speak on this matter? Is there anybody from the public that would like to speak on this matter? Having seen none, I'm going to close the public hearing and ask for a closing statement from the applicant if you choose to make one.
Nothing to add.
All right, Commission, we need some action on this item.
Motion to adopt the findings and recommendations as stated in the staff report.
Second.
And we have a movement and second, so any discussion on this motion? No discussion on this motion. Having seen none, we'll ask the Commission to vote. Roll call, please.
Mr. Colabali?
Aye.
Ms. Davy?
Aye.
Councilmember Ford?
Aye.
Mr. Marshall?
Aye.
Ms. Prop?
Aye.
Ms. Shireman?
Aye.
Vice Chair Mitchell?
Aye.
Chairperson Perry?
Aye.
Motion carried 8-0.
Great, thank you. Item number 4, General Development Plan Amendment, Specific Implementation Plan Approval for Building and Parking Lot Additions at 532 Broad Street, Boys and Girls Club. is the owner, and the applicant is the same as before. So, has there been any site inspections here? Same individuals? Okay, I'll accept the staff report as part of the record. Please present the summary.
Thank you. So this is the same subject site as the previous item with the 11 previously residential parcels and the Boys and Girls Club site, which the applicant again is proposing to combine into one site. In 2019, a zone change was approved for the Boys and Girls Club site to add a plan development overlay. A GDP and SIP were also approved for increased playground area and a community garden. Later that year, a PD amendment was approved for 2 new electronic message center signs on the site. So here's an aerial view of the subject site. So this is the Boys and Girls Club site and the previous residences. The applicant is proposing a renovation to the Boys and Girls Club site. Here's the site plan. The renovation includes interior remodeling, an additional vestibule for the Head Start building, a new administrative wing with associated parking lot, elementary age program building addition, maintenance garage on the south end of the site, and additional parking, and a gymnasium addition. The plans were discussed at a neighborhood meeting and a plan commission workshop in 2021 with the neighbors and plan commission voicing support for the renovation. The site will utilize an existing access from East Parkway Avenue as well as 2 existing accesses on Broad Street. They will also be adding an additional access point from Broad Street and 4 accesses on Monroe Street. So an access control variance will be needed for the proposed number of driveways, and access control variance is also needed for the reduced driveway spacing. So staff will work with the applicant on final driveway spacing and approval of those access control variances. The applicant is requesting a BSM for reduced parking to 124 spaces where code requires 144 spaces, and that's based on the overall gross floor area of the buildings. According to the applicant, the proposed parking is sufficient as the majority of the users of the building will be children and teenagers who will be transported by bus or picked up by parents with pickups at varying times. They also note that the new parking is mainly to be added to provide parking for staff. So city staff is supportive of the proposed BSM for the parking reduction as the primary users are children, and the use is considered to be community or recreation center under the zoning ordinance. However, this is more similar to an elementary or middle school where only 1 space per 2 employees would typically be required, so they are meeting the intent of the use. The applicant is requesting BSMs for reduced parking setbacks along East Parkway Avenue and along Broad Street. So staff is supportive of those reduced setbacks as they're matching the existing setbacks of the existing parking areas. It'll allow for functionality for the parking additions. BSM is also requested for reduced setback to 3 feet where code requires a 25-foot setback for the new grass play area. They're also proposing fencing that'll be up to 12 feet high. It'll be chain link. Code allows a maximum of 6 feet high. So staff is supportive of both the setback reduction and the increase in fencing height as the location is the same location as the previous existing baseball field on the site. And according to the applicant, the baseball field location has not caused concerns with the neighboring properties to the south. The plan also includes 8-foot tall chain link fencing between the 2 new additions to enclose the play area, as well as fencing along the north side of the building to enclose utilities. So staff is supportive of those BSMs to allow that increased fencing height as it will serve to secure the play areas and also screen mechanical equipment. Here's the landscape plan. They are meeting building foundation requirements. They're slightly short of the paved area landscaping requirements, but they do have excess yard landscaping points that they could reallocate to meet that paved area requirement. They're also meeting street frontage requirement and the yard landscaping requirement. There is a 0.4 opacity buffer yard requirement along the south property line as it's abutting single-family residential zoning. They are providing white pines along the south side of the parking lot to screen from that neighboring residential zone property, and that will meet that buffer yard requirement. Here's the lighting plan. They are providing the required 0.4 foot candles for all parking and drive areas and not exceeding 0.5 foot candles at the property lines, so they're meeting the lighting requirements. Here are the building elevations for the administrative building, for the Head Start, and for the gymnasium. And the applicant has noted that the exterior building materials will be split face CMU with a CMU accent band, and the canopies and building entry accent roofing will be orange metal to match the existing building. So the code does not have specific requirements for institutional land uses for design standards, but staff does not have concerns with the proposed materials as they will match the existing building and provide a consistent appearance with the existing site. And the dumpster enclosure will be relocated from the existing location. So currently it's right here, it'll be moved to right here, and they'll be using the same materials as the existing dumpster enclosure, which match the building. So staff does not have concerns with the location or materials of the enclosure. And with that, staff recommends approval of the GDP amendment and SIP approval with the findings and conditions in your staff report.
All right, thank you for your report. Plan Commission, any technical questions to the staff? Ms. Shireman?
Is there parking, or will there be parking on the streets around it due to so there's less parking stalls, and I understand the reasoning, but will there be still parking available on the street?
Top of my head, I am not sure if there's street parking on those streets presently. I believe there is. Justin, do you?
I believe there is, but I can look.
Yeah,
There is.
on both Broad and Monroe.
Okay, then that's fine. And the other question I had is that something you said that caught my attention was, there's a modification, there should be a 25-foot setback, but there's only gonna be a 3-foot setback by the outside play area. So can you just tell me why that is again? That seems counter to what we'd wanna see, but I might have missed it.
So it's in this general area where the previous baseball field was, so they already had, fencing around this area. So it's gonna be the kind of the same area, just a different, more just of an open play area. And according to the applicant, the neighbors have not had concerns with the location of the area, and they're using the same type of fencing as well, so it really won't be much of a change from the existing site layout as far as the play area.
Yeah, like Brian said, it's already there today. However, when we update the GDP and SIP of a project, we have to
Got it.
reissue those approvals.
So it's already at a 3-foot setback.
Correct.
So-
I mean, it's really the fence is about 3 feet from what we can tell, so it'd be just be consistent with exactly what they have today.
Okay. Because my thought was, play areas, they're gonna be closer to the street than that ball diamond. The only people that are theoretically are in the outfield, are 3 people or a bunch of kids, whereas a play area is more.
Yeah, and it's
they-
shifting slightly, if you go back to the aerial, to the east from where it is today.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Davy?
How many adults are on site at any one time?
I'll defer that one to the applicant when they come up.
Okay.
Mr. Mitchell?
Can you show where the 12 and 8-foot high fencing sits?
So the fencing around the play area will be up to 12 feet, maybe the maximum. They have not decided the final height, but they requested being up to 12 feet. And
That's on Parkway?
That is on the south property line, not towards either of the streets. It's kind of in the middle of the site.
it.
And then between the two additions, this is Monroe here, kind of between the two buildings, there's a play area, and that will be 8-foot tall chain link fencing as well to enclose that play area. And then also on the north side of the building, there's, I believe that's up to 8 feet fencing and slatted to enclose some ground mounted utilities.
And then just to follow up on that, is there requirements for trees or any sort of landscaping that goes along with the 12-foot fence or 8-foot fence?
There is no specific landscaping requirements associated to the fence.
Are they putting any on?
They're landscaping not directly along the middle, the north and south of, that'd be east and west of it are being landscaped. But the portion where the fence is closest to the south property line, there is no landscaping. It said it's 3-foot setback, so there's no landscape between that and the property line.
One more follow-up. So you can say, I wasn't here, but I'm curious if they had landscape requirements imposed when they tore down the building on the corner of Parkway and Monroe. And the only reason I ask is that there's essentially been no landscaping put in. And, you know, for this project, they tore down quite a few homes, but also cut down quite a few trees. And I would hate to see the same thing happen where you essentially just create big sprawling grass fields with kind of no landscaping, no attractiveness, no trees. And I'm sure that they have a plan, and I was just curious how if they were able to tear a building down and not put any sort of landscaping in.
Sorry, I guess I'm not completely following. You know, they have a landscape plan as part of their PD. If the project is approved, they will be held to this landscaping plan as shown, which adds significant landscaping around all of the new development areas.
But not at street side is your concern?
No, I was curious if they had a plan previously for a lot where they tore down a building and, you know, nothing happened, and
I'd have to go back and look. I believe this plan, which is what you see today, is what is out there right now, was to turn it into green space, to have some play greenery for the kids. I don't recall there being landscaping required as part of that previous plan development approval for that northeast corner.
All right, any other technical questions? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to open the public comment on this and ask that there be a statement from the applicant. Say the applicant is here. Okay. State your name and address for the record, please.
Again, I'm Jack Richardson with Martinson and Isey. We're the civil engineers helping the Boys and Girls Club through this process, and the Boys and Girls Club representatives are also here to answer other questions related to the organization. We've worked with the staff on a lot of this process, going back and forth, trying to compromise where we can and work towards getting a plan that everyone can be happy with, and we'll continue to do through the site plan approval. A lot of, from what I heard, the big questions were on that green play area. It's basically, we're just moving the existing sports field. We want to keep it about the same dimensions so that they can still play similar things to baseball or other sports. But it just needs to be the big open green field so that they can play the sports. And that's why the chain link fence has to be so high too, is to keep all the balls and whatever other thrown things they're playing around with in there contained and not going over into the neighbors' yards. Otherwise, if you want to speak to the number of staff on site.
Sure. Technically, this will become 4 different buildings. So we house Head Start during the day while our admin staff is there. So during the day, there's probably 20 staff in the building, and there's probably about 25 at night.
So the maximum number of people you would have, adults that would be driving there at any one time, is really going to be under 30 all the time? So why do you need 124 parking spaces?
So the back end of the new building has a community center component to it, so that there'll be community partners coming in that back side of the building on Monroe Street. So the front end on Broad Street, you've got the parking lot next to the garage, which is for our vans and buses. So we go out and transport kids every day. That's for them. The parking lot right next to it is for the administrative staff. The parking lot on Monroe Street is for that community center side. That right there is the Head Start parking. So that's a new circle up driveway, so that when kids are being dropped off for Head Start, that bus can pull right up and drop kids off. Right now, those Head Start kids walk up Broad Street to be picked up onto the bus. It's far safer for them to be picked up and dropped off on Monroe. We use the Head Start building during the summertime and on breaks for our 5- and 6-year-olds, again, to keep them out of the crazy of the regular building. So it's just separating the entrances. And then you have our Radford Center, which is on the corner of Parkway and Broad, which is our elementary school side. So it's just spread out across the building.
So the maximum number of people you would have, adults that would be driving there at any one time, is really going to be under 30 all the time? So why do you need 124 parking spaces?
So the maximum number of people you would have, adults that would be driving there at any one time, is really going to be under 30 all the time. So it's just spread out across the building.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for the applicant before we start the rest of the public hearing? All right, thank you. We're going to request for additional public comment at this time. Is there anybody from the public that'd like to speak on this item? Anybody from the public that'd like to speak on this item? Okay, having seen none, I'm going to close the public comment period. I would ask for a closing statement from the applicant, but I don't think we need one. Commission, action is on you.
Motion
To
to,
adopt the findings and recommendations as stated in the staff report.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Yes, I'm still a little confused about so much parking.
Yeah, I think, what wasn't discussed is the transient nature of it. They may only have 25 employees there at one time, but you still have that transient nature of parents coming and dropping off and picking up. So you need the parking to accommodate those short bursts of when people are coming, parking, taking their children in, coming to pick their children up, and then leaving again. So that's why you have a higher parking count than just the standard, 20 to 30 employees that are there all day long. You need to be able to accommodate those turnover volumes.
And staff feels that that's definitely necessary.
Yeah, based on the way they have, as Tracy mentioned, the almost separate entities, the parking lots, in our opinion, are appropriately sized based on the function that they directly serve.
For that building, and that's why they're.
For the different pieces of the overall complex.
This is not one big one. It's, right?
Correct. You can access the buildings, but they're really designed almost as 4 separate buildings.
Mr. Ford.
in follow-up, Mark, and they have fewer than are actually required by code, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
I saw that, I just wasn't understanding why they were still needed.
Mr. Mitchell.
Just wanted to add a couple of comments. I'm really looking forward to seeing the implementation of the landscape plan, and I'm going back to that, just that image that you have up right there of just a kind of a dog park type fenced in square where the coolest thing is for the kids to sit along the fence in the corner. There's so much room for improvement on the play space landscaping of that block. And so I'm really looking forward to those improvements. I commend the Boys and Girls Club for taking this massive undertaking. They provide an invaluable service, and I believe their needs have been greater than probably ever before. I do wish they would have taken a step to incorporate on-site homeless youth sheltering services, but understand that that's a very complex thing that might be a little bit out of the Oshkosh's scope, but I think this is going to be a vast improvement for the neighborhood, and I commend them for their work.
Thank you. Any other comment from Plan Commission on the motion? Ms. Davy.
Is it possible that, and maybe it's on there and I just can't read it, the terrace, is it possible to put more trees on the terrace?
Is something we could kind of discuss and evaluate with Public Works and Utilities, just based on what is available currently in that terrace. I don't know the utility situation, so I don't want to definitely say there's an option to put some, but it's something we could look at.
Thanks.
Any other discussion by Plan Commission on the motion? Okay, having seen none, we will vote. Roll call, please.
Mr. Coulibaly.
Aye.
Ms. Davy.
Aye.
Councilmember Ford.
Aye.
Mr. Marshall.
Aye.
Ms. Prop.
Aye.
Ms. Shireman.
Aye.
Vice Chair Mitchell.
Aye.
Chairperson Perry.
Aye.
Motion carried 8-0.
Great, thank you. Next item on the agenda is adjournment.
I move to adjourn.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All in favor of adjournment, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hey, we are adjourned. We do have one work.